Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. Across from me is Derrick. I've been in a couple of your classes, and man, I just really appreciate and respect the hell out of you.
Thanks. That means a lot. It does.
Of course, to start with, what do you do?
Yeah, I have the same response as Sephra. I do a lot. So I teach here at ACM. I teach almost full-time. I'm 1 hour shy of full-time every semester. I also teach at OCCC now. I teach all of the film sound editing courses here, as well as some introductory Pro Tools courses. And I was teaching the introductory graphic design course here, but that's recently been taken over by someone else, which is probably for the best because now I get to focus more on audio production, which is what I'm better at for sure. So I also work on films and TV shows and shorts and commercials and stuff. I'm in the process of starting my own studio right now. I worked at a studio for 5 years, and then they decided to move to LA. Mm-hmm. And so I was in this really awesome position where I got to purchase all of their equipment from them. And so now I'm just in the process of finding and building the location of where I'm going to put it all. Mm-hmm. I also do a lot of work with my hands. Not a lot of people know this, but I work with wood and metal a lot. I just like to do furniture projects, I love building toys for my daughter, just wooden toys and stuff. And then recently I've been trying to get into more artistic things with metal and do more sculpting and stuff like that. Yeah. So just stuff that keeps me busy. If I don't have a film job going on, I don't like sitting around the house and just watching movies or TV or something. Mm-hmm. So I always like to stay busy.
Yeah. Out of all these things that you do, which is the thing that you're I am a blank?
I would say working with sound. I've been obsessed with sound for such a long time, and I've been put in this really great position to not have to worry about being a performer, but just taking sounds that other people have created and then doing something fun with them and editing them and adding processing and making it to where it feels like an actual film or something. Mm-hmm. So I would consider myself, more so than anything else, if you ask me what position I prefer to put myself in, it would be a supervising sound editor because I'm so detail-oriented. I do enjoy creating and designing sounds, but I'm not as much of a sound designer as a supervising sound editor.
Sure.
So I'd rather hire somebody who was more creative than I am and who would do a better job at it, and then me just use their work to make it fit the project.
Yeah.
So
cool.
But what do I enjoy doing the most is probably working with my hands with wood. It's just always been very relaxing to me. My grandfather was a carpenter, and he's the one who taught me everything, and he's passed away a few years ago. So now any chance I get to work with wood just reminds me of him and gets me closer to him a little bit. And so that's my favorite hobby for sure.
Yeah.
So,
since you teach it here at ACM, it's kind of different from what we normally get what you teach because you show us film stuff and we step away from music for a bit. So
it's weird.
Yeah, what's the connection for you between music and then sound?
I mean, it's the sense of sound, It's music is vibrations that our ears pick up and we perceive sound, and that's what I was always obsessed with. It wasn't necessarily the act of being musical or creating really cool sounds, but it was just the fact that there's this really awesome Walter Murch quote that I read to you guys in post-production on day one, and he talks about how the sense of sound is the first sense that we're given when we're just conceived. We haven't even been born yet, and sound rules as solitary queen of our senses, is how he puts it. Because, you can't really, you have touch, and you can't really smell, you can't really taste anything while you're still in the womb, but you hear everything. You hear what is going on in your mother's world. And so I was just always kind of obsessed with sound because, to me, it is the most important sense, because if you're in a dark room and you can't see anything, you can still hear somebody walking up on you or something. Yeah. And so I was just sort of always obsessed with sound. my brothers were both musicians, and so I picked up playing music, and then, like what we were talking about earlier, got to a point where I realized there were so many better musicians than I am that I was like, I'm just going to step back, and I'm just going to use the sounds that have been created by other people, and like I still create my own sounds and stuff like that, but I enjoy the editing and processing part of it more so than creating at least something musical. Here, teaching at ACM is kind of weird because, like you said, it's a music production school, and I'm teaching how to use those techniques for sound design and for working on films. And so it's different, and I can tell that coming into certain classes, students don't really understand how much sound is, how big of a role sound plays when it comes to film. And so, like, now I've started telling my students, you'll never look at a film the same way after you take my class because you'll just have a much bigger appreciation for how much it takes. So,
I guess there's like a big argument since like the beginning of music, I guess, that there's a line between sound and music. Where do you draw the line? At what point does sound become music, and does music stop becoming musical and start just being sound?
I mean, I feel like if you're trying to be creative with it, it's going to be musical. Like, even though I spend most of my time editing, like, Foley and sound effects and stuff that aren't necessarily musical, it's like I have to approach it from a creative and musical standpoint. Like, sometimes I'll be adding a sound effect where there's music already playing underneath it, and I have to make the sound effects still fit in that same key, or else it just feels weird and awkward. And so, as long as you're trying to be creative, I feel like sound is musical. Like, I use a lot of isotope plugins, and there's this one that's really awesome. And basically, the whole idea of it is you can record any sound and you can make music from it. And when they first introduced it, they put up a video, and it was a guy who recorded the sounds of his toilet. And then he made this awesome little beat and track to it, and it was just him editing those sounds. So it's like, as long as you're trying to be creative with it, I feel like it is musical. And like, even with sound effects, like I said, you have to think of it as being musical, and how does it fit the overall picture? Like, just a sound by itself is, just a sound, but as long as you're thinking about it and thinking about how it works in that environment, I feel like it starts to become musical. So, but again, I'm not that much of a musician, so I probably have a much different answer than other people. So.
No, I think that's really cool. How did you get started in doing sound for film?
Well, it kind of all goes back. Like I said, my older brothers, I've got two older brothers. They were both musicians. My oldest brother played guitar. The middle brother, he picked up a bass because he didn't want to copy our oldest brother, basically. And so it was like they kind of convinced me to get some drums, and I was playing drums for a while. And then my oldest brother, who plays guitar, he got like this little Sony handheld recorder, and he used to record demos and like EPs and stuff on it. And when he wasn't using it, I used to create soundscapes all the time, just for fun, just because I was bored. And so I would just go around and like think of these sort of stories. Sometimes I would try to write a script. I would just try to create that with just audio. And like I didn't ever have enough money for a video camera or anything like that. And so it was like, what can I do with the recorder that my older brother has? And so I was just doing those like projects for fun, and I got really interested in it. And then my best friend, he's an amazing guitarist. He got into recording music, and he knew that I was already interested in sound and stuff like that. And so it sort of became, hey, he's going to play the music, and I'm going to spend my time recording. ACM came out, or started, and so I was a student here. I was the second semester class here. And I thought I was going to work in a music recording studio forever. I didn't even realize that film sound was a career choice, honestly. And then I met my mentor, who's a guy named Dave Hannon. He was a sound designer. He was one of my instructors up here. I still work with him from time to time. I still talk to him all the time. And maybe the last 2 weeks of our class together, and it was like my capstone semester, he sent out an internship for the post-production house he was working at. And I applied for it. did not think I was going to get that job at all. I thought I was applying against 20 other students, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to get it. And whenever I went and had the interview, they were like, you are by far the best choice. And so they hired me on. It was supposed to be a 3-month-long internship with possibility of being hired afterwards. And after 3 weeks of working with them, they were like, look, we're just going to hire you as an editor. And then I spent 4 years dialogue editing, which will drive anybody insane. But what was great about it is it made me so detail-oriented. Like I said earlier, I consider myself more of a supervising sound editor because I focus on how do I make these recordings sound and give me the feeling that I'm there in that environment. Whereas sound design is all creative and it's like, how can I make it more, musical, if you will.
Sure.
And so I spent 4 years of my life focused on how do I make this dialogue sound like I'm sitting in the room with that person.
Yeah.
And so now it's just, now I spend a lot more time editing sound effects and doing some more sound design stuff, but I just became so detail oriented about making sound accurate. And so that sort of led to that whole supervising sound editor idea that I have, that I'm better at that than sound design because I spent more time focused on making it sound right rather than sound cool.
Yeah.
So
what's sort of the best part of that process?
Mixing is so much fun, especially if you're working in surround. Mixing in stereo, now that I mix in surround so much more, I have much better respect for people who only work in stereo. Because in surround, you've got 6 discrete channels, you can put sound wherever, and you just have more room to place things. Whereas with stereo, it's like you have to process things creatively so that you still hear all of the different elements. And so mixing, like I said, I spent so much time editing and just being focused on getting things to sound right. Now I've started to work more towards how do I make all of these elements come together and sound like a movie. Like I noticed a while back that if everything sounds the way it's supposed to, it just sounds stale and static and boring.
Yeah.
And you add sound design to it, and that's this creative level that really is added during the mix, and it just feels more cinematic.
Yeah.
So I enjoy mixing now more than anything else. So,
do you have is your favorite movie different from your favorite sound design movie?
My favorite movies are probably based off of the sound for the movies, honestly. And I ask students on day one what their favorite films are, and it's just kind of an asshole question for me to ask because it's like asking what your favorite artist is, or something like that. But I like sound, I like movies that don't necessarily feel like I'm in that environment, but it's just really cool and creative, I always think of the movie Drive. They use a very minimalistic approach to the mix. And so, there are times where he's in this big car chase and he's trying to evade the police. And before he's spotted by the police, you don't hear any car sounds at all. So he's sort of evading them on this, sonic level. And then the police helicopter sees the car, and then, the engine sounds punch in, and it's, brakes and tires and all this cool stuff. And so it's not necessarily realistic, but it just gives you that emotion, and to me, every sound has an emotion to it, and I try to focus on finding the right emotion for the sound for whatever I'm putting it to. So.
And then are there, movies that, even some of, big movies that you've just been like, gosh, this sounds awful?
Yes, all the time. Being a dialogue editor for so long, the thing that always stands out to me is dialogue. And I've gotten to a point now whenever I watch films, it's hard for me to not just stare at lips moving because that's what I did for 4 years. But The Force Awakens, that one, there's a point where you see Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and it turns on, and it's not the same sound from the original films.
Yeah.
And it's still his lightsaber, but it sounds totally different.
Yeah.
When I saw that in the theater, I wanted to stand up and leave because the sound effect wasn't the right sound effect. And obviously, I pay more attention to the sounds of films than what's happening on screen.
Yeah. Because, it's always funny to to kind of analyze other people's like jobs and stuff, especially stuff that they're experts at, because it's
you think I'm an expert?
That's awesome. Because a common person doesn't see these details and doesn't catch that, and so like it's always interesting to get the perspective of like, oh, I didn't think that the dialogue in a movie was bad. I was just kind of like,
I was just watching it. Yeah, yeah. It's so easy to do that, and like now I feel bad for my wife more than anybody else, because we sit down to watch a film or a show or something, and I'm just sitting there complaining the whole time about things. And so it's like, like I said, I tell my students they'll never look at a film the same way after taking my class.
And how do you approach sort of having this perspective, being able to, I guess, hear all the secrets, but at the same time knowing that the consumer isn't going to hear it?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. I mean, I think about that whenever I'm mixing. I don't necessarily think about that as I'm watching a show or a film or something. But like when I'm mixing or editing, I think about like, okay, I'm going to spend a couple of hours editing Foley. Is anybody ever really going to care if it's there or not?
Yeah.
But whenever I watch films, maybe I'm selfish. I don't really think about what other people hear. I just think about what I hear and whether or not I like what I hear.
Yeah.
So, and usually whenever I watch films, I'm paying attention to the sound more than anything else, but I'm always trying to find things that they've done that I can use in my future work,
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so you talk about like you work with your hands a lot. What's kind of, well, to start, how did you get into that hobby?
Well, my dad was in the military. He was a aircraft maintenance refueling tank mechanic or something like that. And so like I grew up in this house where if something broke, like we never hired anybody to fix it. It was like we always did it ourselves. And then I was the youngest of all the brothers, and so by the time they moved out of the house, my parents were getting older, and like my dad wasn't able to fix everything anymore. Like more electronics were being introduced to vehicles and stuff like that, and so everything sort of fell on me to fix everything around the house. And like I said, my grandfather was a carpenter, and I picked up a lot of stuff from him. And it was just something that's always stuck. Like I always knew I was going to do something with my hands and do something with like creative media, whether it was making videos or putting sounds to videos or doing something with graphic design or making music. I knew that I wanted to be creative, and because the world is leading to working with technology, like everybody working with technology, it was like I wanted to be in that world with digital media but still doing something that I loved, but I still wanted to do like other things like working with my hands as well. And it was just, I don't know, I've always just had a love for hardwoods. Like there's something about it. There's something about working with black walnut when like you're done with it and you're just like rubbing it and it feels so smooth. It's just like, I don't know, I love it.
Well, what's the thing that you've made that you're like the proudest of?
Probably, I made a dresser for my wife a while back. This is probably like 4 years ago. And it was the first time I worked with English white oak, and which is just an amazing wood to work with. But I made this really cool design, and it was really creative. It doesn't look like a standard dresser. It's 5 drawers, and they're stacked on top of each other, but every next stack is a little bit smaller, so it grows on top of each other, but it's like stacked up. And I had never seen anything like it before. I used the wood that I found in my grandfather's shed after he passed away. I used his leather belts as handles. I used the trunk of my parents' Christmas tree that year for the feet of the dresser. And every time I see it, I'm just like, man, I should go into business doing this stuff. Because really, all of my like wood projects and metal projects have all just been like stuff for me. Sometimes like somebody will like hire me or commission me to do something, but usually it's just like things that I need that I don't want to pay for. And so it's just like I'm a really detailed person, and to me things are very obvious if they're wrong, and I don't want I want quality objects and items in my house, and so it's like I'm going to do the best job I can.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
No, I think that's really awesome, and that you're able to sort of take all these things from like various parts of your life and sort of like put it into one sort of.
Yeah. No, it's great, man. I really love it. And, like, there are definitely projects that I'm not very proud of. Like, I built a bed frame for us. Yeah, I don't know, maybe like close to 7 or 8 years ago. I built this bed frame, and we've still been using the same bed frame for a long time. And maybe like 6 months ago, it just completely broke. And so, like, when I was trying to fix it, I was just like, no, I'm just going to trash this whole thing. Yeah. Like, I've just learned so much since then. Yeah. So it's like, and, you know, I try not to beat myself up because it's like, you know, it's all a learning process. So.
Yeah. What about metal? You say, like, I have a friend that is a carpenter, so, like, I understand a little bit of how wood works. Pun intended, that like metal is just a different world.
Yeah, metal, you have to work harder with it. Like with wood, it's like, you know, you have a circular saw or a table saw, you've got sandpaper and some chisels, and like you can get a lot done with it. With metal, it's like you need to have like a torch, you need to have all of the right safety equipment, and then you have to have welders, and it's just like you really have to work at it.
Yeah.
And it was something new for me, and it started because I needed to fix something. I don't remember what it was. I needed to fix something, and so I had some extra money. I went and I bought a welder.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to do it myself.
Sure.
And then I did it, and I was like, man, those welds look like crap. And so I was like, okay, how do I get better at it? And then it was like, you know what, I need a lamp. So I built my first lamp, and then I still have it, and still use it all the time. And I was really happy with it. But then I was like, you know what, I need a lamp for this other room. And so I built it a different way. And then some people have seen the work that I've done, and like I said, they'll commission me for some stuff, and it's just slowly I'm getting better and better. And that's what I always tell clients too, is like, look, like I don't consider myself a metal artist. I consider myself like a metal student in that, you know, because it's like everything to me is trial and error. I sort of teach myself how to do it out of making mistakes.
Yeah.
So, best way to learn.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like at some point, whenever you make your own stuff, you value it more.
Oh yeah. It's the whole idea too of like, you know, if somebody gave you something for free versus you buying it yourself, you're going to value that object more if you had to pay for it. Yeah. And it's the same thing. If you made it, and like if you spent 10 hours sanding a dresser or something, like if your 2-year-old daughter runs by and scratches it with a toy, you're going to be like, no, you know, just because it's like you remember how much work and passion you put into it, you know, and like the blood, sweat, and tears. And so, yeah.
Do you see yourself like sort of mixing sort of your hobby and your job like in some way?
I eventually want to get to a position where I'm making more studio furniture, just because I've built studio furniture for friends who have studios and stuff like that, and it's a fun process because it does include audio and like building like diffusers and stuff like that, and like trying to figure out how the acoustics would be affected by that furniture and stuff. It's sort of bringing those two worlds together, and I enjoyed it. So I'd like to do more things like that, but I also don't want to make like working with my hands a job. Like, I want to leave it at where it's at, where I just enjoy doing it.
Sure.
So like if I can make some extra money, like great, but I don't want to get to a point where I'm like stressed out and like, oh, I have to do this project so that I can pay bills or something like that.
Exactly.
So
yeah. Do you have like a pie in the sky sort of like, man, this is the point where I want to be in my career or something?
It's sort of like a shop dream, if you will.
Sure.
Like I've always wanted to have some sort of like garage apartment building where the upstairs would be like my mixing room where I could work on films and work with sound, and then downstairs would be just like big open garage with all of my tools. So it's like if I was up against a wall when I was editing or mixing and just like couldn't get past one specific thing, then I could just be like, all right, I'm going to stop for a couple hours. I'm going to go downstairs and sand that dresser or something, you know? So it would be really cool to get to that point. But really it's just like my whole thing, my whole life is I just want to work for myself. Like I can't imagine working for somebody else and always being told what to do. And so it's just like, I want to work for myself however I can.
Yeah.
So
I really appreciate that, especially in the sense that, like, you know, maybe a lot of times it seems like even here in like music world that, oh, hey, I'd like to be signed by this label or be working with this artist or something, but I actually respect that a lot more. It's like I'd rather just be myself.
Yeah. Man, I'm not going to lie, like, we struggle all the time. There are times of the year where we struggle a lot more, at least in terms of money, and, you know, you always ask yourself, like, am I doing the right thing? Like, I could go and get a construction job making $20 an hour building houses or something and be living much more comfortably, but would I enjoy what I was doing? Yeah. Not at all, you know? Yeah. And so it's like, for me, I realized a long time ago that life is incredibly short and it's nothing but a series of events. So I don't need a lot of money to buy me things to give me this idea of happiness. I want to do more things with my life. I want to, you know, as my daughter gets older and older, like I made this little badass step stool that she can climb up into, and she's at the same level as my workbench in the garage. So now when I work on projects, I'm starting to introduce her into it, and like she's going to start helping more. And so it's like, I don't want more things. I want to do more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you just get more out of it that way.
Yeah. You know, like, I don't know. I enjoy having relationships with people one-on-one, and I don't care about buying a new TV or buying the new coolest phone or a new car or something, you know, like, shit, the clothes I'm wearing right now I've probably had for like 4 years, you know, like that stuff doesn't matter to me. What matters is, am I doing something that makes me happy?
Yeah.
And right now in this moment, I am.
Yeah.
Even though we struggle all the time. I'm still happy.
Yeah.
So.
Which you just set me up perfectly for a little segue into...
I do my best.
Yeah. What do you believe? Intentionally broad and vague question.
I believe in the universe, maybe. I mean, I don't believe in a higher power. I don't think that there was any, like, one sole creator for everything that's here. You know, I think that's a really great idea, and, like, for a lot of people it works, but for me it just doesn't. Like, I'm the type of person, like, I won't believe something until I see those facts and I know it to be true. And, you know, maybe at some point in my life I will have this awesome religious God moment, and maybe I will change, but to me right now, I've never had anything like that happen to me. And so my parents they consider themselves Christian. We maybe went to church like 4 times whenever I was a kid. And so, like, they basically just said, you know, like, figure out whatever you guys want to and just do you. And with me, it was like, I was the first out of the 3 of us where I was like, yeah, I'm an atheist. Like, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in heaven or hell. There are too many things that tell me that that's not real for me to believe it yet. And, like, there's this awesome quote where it's like, faith is a gift that I have yet to receive.
Yeah.
Sometimes I envy people who have faith, and I, like, see people who go to church every week and who have that whole church family, and I'm like, man, like, that seems so nice. And there are times where I'm, like, super depressed about it because I'm like, why don't I believe that? But in the end, it's like, you know, I'm doing me, and this is what I believe, and it makes it to where I want to be a great person now because I don't believe in an afterlife. Like, I believe this is the only life I have. If I get to 60 years old, I'll be happy. And, you know, that's 34 years away now. Yeah. And so it's like, at some point, I just have to be the best I can and not worry about making other people happy. Yeah. Like, I don't want to live my life trying to be a good person in hopes to getting into heaven. I'd rather live my life being a good person because it makes me feel better about myself. And so that was sort of the mindset I always had. A lot of it stems from issues with my parents. I have a lot of issues, specifically with my dad. And so, like, growing up, my dad and we didn't get along at all. He was in the military. He was very strict. but he was very hands-off. Like, I've never had a conversation with my dad about religion. I've never had a conversation with him about sex or anything like that. And so it was all just left up to me to decide on my own how I wanted to feel about it. And part of it probably stemmed from me not wanting to be like him. And so I saw that he believed in God and he was somewhat religious, and I was just like, no, like that doesn't make sense to me. So I sort of did the opposite of it, and I was probably trying to just piss him off too. But it just stuck, and like now it seems like it's getting harder and harder for me to ever believe in something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just I still have morals, and like I want to be a good person because it makes me feel better. You know, like I get pissed off at people when they litter just because I know what effect that has on the planet as a whole. As we were walking up, I pick up trash. That. You know, like I pick up trash if I see it on the ground and just throw it away. Like I'm such a like empathetic person now. Like I was having a conversation with somebody who I work with at OCCC, and he was telling me how he had to take his wife to the hospital because she was having heart issues. And he said that, and my eyes started to tear up just thinking about the pain that he and his family were going through. And so it's like, you know, if I can just tell him, look, like I'm sorry, I hope everything works out, and you know, I'll send good vibes your way. I'll think about you guys. It makes me feel better. Yeah. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. How does this sort of world belief structure affect how you raise your daughter?
You know, we talk about it a lot. And like, whenever we decided to put her into daycare, we went and had an interview with the daycare. And one of the first questions I asked was like, are you guys religious? And do you guys teach any religious ideas? And with me, I don't mind if other people are religious, but I don't want anybody to ever force their opinion on my daughter now and any future kids, including myself. Like, I don't want my daughter to grow up and say, I'm an atheist because my parents are atheists. I want her to make that decision on her own. I don't want other people to necessarily educate her about religion. I'd like to be the one to have those conversations with her, but I still want her to make that decision. Yeah. And if she is religious, good for her. You know, like if that's what makes her happy, that's awesome. I'm on board, you know. Yeah. But to me, it was just, or to both of us, me and my wife, it's always been about just setting her up with knowledge and a sense of like understanding for her to make that her own decision. And so even with Christmas, man, Christmas is so hard for me. And like all of our family, they want to celebrate Christmas and all of this and that. I'm like, man, I'm not going to tell her that there's this guy named Santa Claus who comes and brings her presents. Like, no, I work my ass off for what money I do have. And then when we buy her presents, I'm going to tell her they're from her. And like, you know, yeah, that might put us in a bad situation, her going to daycare saying Santa Claus isn't real or something. Sure. But nonetheless, it's like, I don't want to lie to her about anything. And I want to tell her about my experiences so that she can sort of expand on them, you know? Yeah. And I hope that in the end she's happy. I hope she's not as depressed as I get sometimes. But if she does get depressed about it, then I'll be there to have a conversation with her. Yeah. You know? It's like I said with my dad, we never had any conversations. Like, the only time that I ever really talked to him is when he was pissed off at me and I was getting in trouble. Yeah. So it was like, with my daughter, I was like, that's not the relationship I want to have with my kids. And so I just want to have an open conversation about everything. Yeah. So.
And then as far as, like, morals go, since, I mean, yeah, you don't lose your morals whenever you, like, don't have religion, but like how does moral teaching go about in an atheist point of view?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. I do good things because it makes me feel good, you know, and like that's what I want her to remember is, you know, like we recycle not because we feel like we have to, but because we like how we feel when we do our part helping the planet, you know? Yeah. And so it's like, it's all about, if it makes you happy, do it. Even if it's, as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else, you know? Sure. Like, I wouldn't say if it makes you happy to go and kill people, go and do it. Obviously, you shouldn't. But if it doesn't have an impact on anybody else's life except for your own, or if it doesn't have a negative impact on anybody else's life, then if it makes you happy, just do it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Just if it makes you happy, just do it.
Yeah.
So.
And I really respect that, and like the way that public discourse is going about lately, and people aren't able to, I guess, keep to themselves in in their moral beliefs or whatever. You know, how do you go about not challenging other people or trying not to be challenged?
A big problem for me personally is I am sometimes far too honest than what I should be, and I have the hardest time filtering myself. I don't know if you remember, I probably told your class as well, but like day one, I tell my students, look, if cursing is going to bother you, you need to speak up now, because if nobody says anything, like it's who I am, you
Sure.
know? And so whenever I find myself in conversations like that, I'm honest with them. I don't try to say like, no, your opinion's wrong or anything like that. I respect other people's opinions. But if it gets to a point where I can tell that they don't respect mine, then I just, I usually just try to walk away or something.
Yeah.
If they're not going to give me the same respect that I give them, then I don't want to talk to that person at all. And I just don't care at that point. And so I try not to have arguments about religion. I used to talk more about it and argue with people all the time about it, but anymore it's just like, look, if that's what you believe and that makes you happy, great, good for you. Don't try and force your views on me and my family. We're in a free country, and I should be able to do what I want as long as it doesn't have a negative impact on you. And I feel like nothing I do, as an atheist has any sort of impact on anybody else, but still I feel like religion is still pushed at atheists and non-believers all the time, And so it's like, it's hard, and sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes I do have to walk away. Sometimes there's certain content that maybe is being shown on TV that I don't want my daughter to watch because I feel like it is pushing a certain like religious agenda or something. And if that's the case, I just turn it off and get it out of my life, And like I try not to force my views on anybody else, because for all I know, I'm completely wrong. And like part of me hopes I'm wrong, more people believe in God and are religious than non-believers. And I hope all of those people are right, like I hope that what you truly believe in your heart and soul, I hope you're right. Do I really think you are? No, but I hope you are, because I don't want to see you in any sort of pain or sadness,
Yeah.
And so it's hard. It's hard, especially in Oklahoma. It is so hard. I feel like I feel very alienated here a lot of the times. And more recently, I feel more alienated from the entire country, specifically because of this past election that we've just been through. I just can't believe that. I don't know if I should say a monster like that person was elected, but I don't like the idea of anybody telling me that I'm wrong, and I would definitely never tell somebody else that they were wrong.
Sure.
So,
yeah. I think it's very hard living in Oklahoma and sort of having progressive views in that regard.
Now imagine having your ears gauged and a tattoo on your hand. Man, like, I can't tell you how often it happens where I start to have a conversation with somebody and I can just, like, I watch their eyes go up and down on my person. Like, I know that they're judging me. And that's one of the worst feelings, because I try so hard not to judge other people, and it's something that, like, immediately gives me anxiety and all of this stuff. And in Oklahoma, like, I stand out like a sore thumb,
Sure.
And so it's like, I feel that all the time, and I just hope that something starts to change where we're less judgmental of other people, because that's not the world I want my daughter to grow up in. It was really weird for me, not as soon as we were pregnant, not when we were planning for the baby or anything like that, but as soon as she was born, like, my whole mentality on life changed, like, almost instantly. It was no longer about me and what I wanted to do. It was all about her. And, like, every decision I make, everything that I say, I always think about, okay, if my daughter heard me say this or saw me do this, how would she feel about her dad doing that? And like, I told you how I have issues with my dad, and a big part of my life is how to not be like him. And I don't ever want my kids to feel that same way. And so now I think, like I said, everything I do is always about how would she react when she's my age, reading something I wrote or listening to this podcast or something, And so that's helped out a lot, just because it's like now I feel maybe more responsible. Like I feel like everything's for a reason, and that reason is to make my daughter happy. And, like I'm happily married. I love my wife to death, but my daughter is so much more important than my wife, to be honest, just because it's like, like I always, in a text, I always call my daughter my homegirl. And everybody's like, why do you call her homegirl? And it's because no matter what happened, if me and my wife did split up at some point or something like that, my daughter will always be there, and I'm going to be there for her. And so, like, she is the most important thing in my life. Until I have more kids, and then they'll be equal, And like, I was having a meeting at OCCC, and one of the other instructors, he asked me, he's like, how's it been going? I was like, oh man, I'm really busy. He's like, so what kind of busy? Like, what's your most fun thing that you've been doing? My daughter. Like, without a doubt, my daughter. No matter how many other things I'm doing that I enjoy, working with sound, working with wood or metal or whatever, my daughter is my favorite thing in the world. And so everything's about her.
I was actually talking to someone recently, and I'll have him on soon, actually, but him and his family, like his wife, and I think he has a daughter, are moving to Australia. And I told him, like, you owe it to your family to, like, find a better place for them, how do you feel about, living in Oklahoma and, like, looking at the future of what it's turning into?
We don't want to live in Oklahoma. I can't say that it's not the people and community here, because part of it is, a big part of it is, really. It's just because I feel so alienated compared to the community and the peers around and stuff. I mean, there are some really great people here in Oklahoma, but I feel like they're 10% of the population here. Like, it's so low that it's like 1 out of every 10 people I meet are great, but those other 9 people, I could care less. Like, you do you, and if it makes you happy, great, but I don't really care. Like, so we want to move. In fact, we were in the process of moving. I had applied to multiple positions. I had gotten some callbacks. We were in the process of looking at a place to rent. We were on our way out to Colorado. This was 4 years ago. And then we found out we were pregnant. And so it was like, no, it had been 3 years ago then. Probably getting close to 4. But so we just decided, it was like, we were already in the process of moving and stuff like that, but it was just like, it's probably not the best time right now to move with our daughter coming into the world and this and that. And so we decided we were going to wait for like 5 years. And I always said that I did not want my daughter to go to Oklahoma public schools. It was a really big thing for me, and it still is, to be honest, it really is. And so we've got a lot of family in Colorado, and we had talked about moving to Colorado. But now with, the decriminalization of marijuana, Colorado's cost of living has skyrocketed. Like, both of my brothers live there. One of my brothers is one of the, like, Colorado residents who's been affected by the housing market almost tripling in the last year. And so anymore, it's like we don't want to move to Colorado. Like, we still go and visit Colorado all the time, but I wouldn't be surprised if we would either end up in, like, northern New Mexico, or my wife really wants to move to Montana. We're both introverts, and we both want to work for ourselves, working from home as much as we can, and she's just, we've always had a thing for the mountains, and so it was always about, we want to live near mountains. She lived in Germany for a while. I used to live in Italy, and so we were both around the Alps, and like I said, we've got a lot of family in Colorado, and so we were just always used to the mountains. And then we're here in Oklahoma. Her family, her dad was also in the military, and both of our parents decided to retire here, and we just feel like neither one of us has ever felt like Oklahoma was our home. And so it was like, we always knew we wanted to move, but we're smart enough to know when is a good time versus when isn't.
Yeah.
And so at some point, we will move. I keep saying that I don't want to have another child until after we move, and she wants to try and have another child and sort of be a little bit more comfortable with 2 children and then try to move. But that would put our daughter in Oklahoma schools for a couple of years, and I don't like the idea of that. So
education just plays such a big part of, who we become.
You're around people at school or work more than you're around your own family, and so it's like I've always said, it's not about what job you're doing, it's about who you work with, because you spend more time with them than your actual family. And going back to the whole thing of, I feel like 9 out of the 10 people I meet I don't agree with, I don't want them to influence my daughter at all, and so I don't know, all I can do is just try to educate her the best I can, and just try to do what I think is best for our family. And I'm in the situation now where now I want to have my studio sort of not only started, but like somewhat successful to a point where I can just sort of move my business with us. Like I don't want to have to start completely from scratch wherever we move. And because it's working from home, and because that's the end goal for both of us, it's more terrifying. It's not as easy as just like finding a new job and like moving somewhere and like getting some sort of relocating advance or something like that. Like for us, we want to work for ourselves. We know exactly what kind of life we want to live, and now it's just trying to like put those ducks in a row.
Where I guess it's like sort of changing a little bit, but like, how has the film scene sort of changed in the past few years? I think
it's growing, man. It's just the Oklahoma art community in general is growing at such a fast rate. It's awesome to be a part of it right now. I really enjoy that. The thing that I complain about the most with Oklahoma artists, just in general, not just filmmakers, not just musicians or graphic artists or something like that, but my biggest problem with it is everybody says, and I'm part of it too, obviously, but everybody always says, like, I'm going to get to a point where I'm doing what I love and then I'm going to move. And that sucks, because we do have these great artists who start here in Oklahoma, but then everybody moves away, you know? And so it's like, I am part of that. I'm part of it for other reasons. It's not like I want to move out to LA to work on big Hollywood films or something like that. Like, I wouldn't mind traveling out there to work on a project or two, but I want to move for other reasons because it makes the most sense for my family. But nonetheless, it sucks because we do have a growing community of great artists, but so many of them are becoming great and then moving away. And so that kind of stinks. But
how is, like, I mean, since you do work more in film, but like, how does the output of the community in Oklahoma sort of make it different from anywhere else?
Oklahoma's got this great film tax incentive, which basically means it's something like $7 million a year is what they have through the Oklahoma Film and Music Office. And big productions that come to Oklahoma to do any part of the production. So if it's pre-production, the production stage, or post-production, if they spend money with an Oklahoma company, they get 33% of their money back through this rebate program, which is great because there are some really big budget films that come through, and I'm in this position where I personally don't know of any other like post-production studio for film. I don't know them because I'd probably be working there. Like, so many filmmakers, I've worked with so many people in Oklahoma. Everybody knows who I am. Like, I'm not on social media. I don't have a website yet. Like, I don't interact with people online except for through email. And I stay busy just because of my work ethic and word of mouth, really. And so, because of the film tax incentive, that's really great. Oklahoma also has a lot of religious films, which, I've worked on tons of religious projects, and I don't have a problem working on it as long as it doesn't feel like they're trying to push their agenda on like non-believers.
Sure.
More often than not, it's like they're just making a film that has some sort of like Christian undertones that they're going to distribute between their peers and their community. Mm-hmm. And that I have no problem working on because, like I said, if it makes them happy, good for them. Sure, I want to be a part of making other people smile. But if it was something where it was like, atheists are going to hell and all of this, then I wouldn't work on it at all. Yeah. But so we work on a lot, or I work on a lot of religious stuff, which is fine. But I also get to work on some really cool projects. There are a lot of just cool little like features that I've done. I've worked on some fun like horrors. Mm-hmm. I know people who are in the LGBTQ community, and they're filmmakers. I've worked on their stuff, and so it's like, I'm in this great position where there's not really other people who are doing what I do, at least on the level that I've been doing it at. And so everybody sort of knows who I am and comes to me, which is awesome. And then once my studio is built in my backyard, it's going to be even better. Like I was telling you earlier, right now I'm leasing space down in Norman, which I'm basically leasing a music recording studio's control room as I need it. And it doesn't really fit my needs. I don't feel very comfortable because it's somebody else's space. Mm-hmm. And so whenever I have my own space, it's going to be like, this is what we do here. And I have no doubt people are going to come.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you think that moving away will sort of make that harder? Or do you think that you'll find...
Really, 2017, my big goals for 2017 are to finish building my studio and then to have better online presence. Mm-hmm. I want to get to a point where I'm getting a majority of my work online, where as opposed to now it's all word of mouth. And I love the relationships that I have, but it's just not quite enough, Mm-hmm. And like I'd rather be in a position where somebody sent me like a short film or a commercial and they're like, hey, you've got 3 days, do whatever you can. And then I just get to like do it and turn it around. And so hopefully that starts to happen, if I build my online presence like what I want to, and I've got big plans for it. I just need to start really, really focusing on it. So many other things always get brought up. But if that does happen, it'll put us in the exact position we want to be in, where we can not have to live in a city anymore. Like we both want to have like 10 to 20 acres. We want to have like an A-frame style cabin house, and we just want to like have our own little property where, like I said, we're huge introverts, and so like we're probably a little bit too hermity, but it works for us, and that's what our sort of goal is. And hopefully 2017 will happen the way we both wanted to, and so if it leads to that, great. If not, northern New Mexico, Albuquerque is a huge film city, and so that's why I want to move to northern New Mexico, is because even if I was 2 hours away from Albuquerque, I could still drive in to meet clients or something like that. So but I mean, it does scare me. It scares the piss out of me, because I'm like, I know all of these filmmakers here, and we've got this great tax incentive program and all of this. And it's like, we move somewhere else, and I could lose all of my business and like not have anything and have to start from scratch. And so that's why I'm trying to build that now to a point where I can do all of my work off-site and just like people just send me their work, I do it. Obviously we'd have conversations. It's not like I would just do it and send it back.
Sure.
But hopefully it can get to a point where it doesn't matter where I'm at. Mm-hmm. So that's my goal, my business.
Has there been a project that you've worked on that like really impacted you? That like maybe it's just like a great work of art, or that maybe it, I don't know, but...
I mean, every project, when you spend 2 months in an editing bay by yourself looking at a screen, like everything sort of leaves its mark with you. I don't know that there's any one project that I've worked on that like had a good impact on me that's lasted. I've worked on, there was one project that I worked on I hated working on it so much. I told them that I would do it because I was in a bad spot. I needed money. But I told them that I did not want my name on the film at all. And that, I still think about it all the time. And a big part of me wishes I just would have declined that job now. It was just bad. Not just the film itself, but just the whole project and being around that group of people. It was just miserable. And so like now I know better. And like back then I was still working with that post house. So it was like they took on the job, and it was either they were going to pay me to do it or they were going to find somebody else to do it.
Sure.
And so it was like, like I said, they didn't have another job going on at the time, and it was going to be like a 2-month thing. And so it was like, man, I wouldn't have income for 2 months. So it was like I did it, but I hated it. I wish I wouldn't have done it. And then that director came back to him like maybe a year and a half later with another film, and I told him straight up no. Just because I remembered working with him. And they ended up not taking the job just as the whole company, which was probably a good move because that film never, like, they ran out of money. They spent all of their post-production budget during production, and then I don't think it's ever come out. But, so yeah, I don't know that there was ever one project that had, like, this great... or left a great mark on me. There were some projects that I wish I would have turned away.
Do you think that you'll find yourself creating anything that, like, has there been something that you've been wanting to make?
Yeah. There are a few things, talking about sound specifically, not talking about like the working with my hands projects, because there's always stuff that I think about with that stuff. But with sound specifically, I've been wanting to move towards creating my own sound effects libraries and licensing those. But not only that, like creating videos of the process of me recording the sound effects, like writing blog posts about it, and like having multiple levels of content to put out that would hopefully lead more clients and more people who are interested in audio to my website just to see what it is that I'm doing and stuff. And so I want to get into recording and licensing sound effects. I've also had this project that I've wanted to do for a really long time. I've sat down and I've written like 4 out of the like 12 scripts that I have the idea for. But I've, going back to how I said I started working with and recording my own soundscapes. I want to do this thing where I basically think of it as like individual seasons of a show. None of the seasons, like it's not an ongoing story. Each season is a completely different story. Each season would last for like 4 weeks, and every week I would put out like a 5 to 10 minute, basically like a radio drama that would be like an episode inside the season. And I just put it up on my website just for free. And then at the end of the month, when all the episodes are out, stitch them all together and release it as a podcast or something. So I've been wanting to do that. And then I've also had this idea for like a web series show. And like I do a little bit of video production, but not enough to really take on this project, at least not seriously yet. But I've had this, I think it's a great idea of like a web series that follows like a film production company that's just like the worst production company you can imagine. And just little like 10-minute episodes just to put on YouTube, just with friends, just for fun. And I don't know, like, so I want to do that. The radio drama thing will probably happen once I get my website started and everything, which I've started building, I just haven't finished. And really the problem that I have with my website is I don't have enough content to put on it right now. And so it's like, but once that's all in place, I feel like I'm going to start doing more things like that. So,
yeah. What advice do you have for people who are trying to break into this world, either like post or just audio engineering?
Just, especially with ACM, it's there's so many kids who come through this school now who want to be engineers and producers and stuff. And like, if you want to be an engineer, producer, if you want to be a professional creative in any manner, you've got to realize what you're up against first and foremost. And you've got to realize that if you're not thinking about it every day, all day, it's probably not going to happen for you.
Sure.
It's like you have to be. I tell all of my students, you cannot fake passion, and that's one thing people are going to pick up on. Like if you're doing sound effects for a film and you just hate it, the client's not going to come back to you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like they're going to talk to other people who could have been potential clients. And so if you want to do something creative as your career, do it with absolutely no expectations and do as much of it as you can without expecting to make it or expecting to be successful. You should just do it because you love doing it. And if your passion's there, I like to think that if your passion's there and if you're working your ass off, it's going to come around.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just say, figure out what it is you want to do and just do it. Just do as much as you can and immerse yourself in it, like learn as much as you can and just don't give up and just do more.
Yeah. And I guess just like, what advice do you have for people in general?
Don't be an asshole. Don't think that because you have certain views on the world that you're right. Like I said, you know, I hope I'm wrong in a lot of my views. And definitely don't push your views on somebody else, you know, like as long as what somebody else is doing isn't having a negative effect on you, like let them do it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like even if it is something that you think is horrible, like if it's not directly causing you pain and suffering and sadness, just who cares? Let them do it, you know? And so, I don't know, just be nice to people. Look out for our planet. That's the thing that scares me the most, man. You know, I don't like our new president, but the thing, and all of his policies are probably horrible, at least for how I feel. But, you know, like this is the only planet that we know of in the entire universe that can sustain human life.
Mm-hmm.
And we treat it like shit, you know? Like, think about how much trash and garbage is on this planet. Think about all the CO2 emissions that we're putting into the air constantly.
Plus, if
like,
we find another planet, it, like, the
we're not
concept
gonna be
of
able to
light
travel there.
years.
Yeah, come on. Like, are you kidding me? I'm like, that's the thing that I'm scared about. And like, you know, knowing that my daughter's going to live longer than I am, I can't imagine the shit she's going to see. If she has kids, what are they going to go through, you know? And so, I don't know, I try to be an advocate for Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Cool. Rob, thank you for doing this with me. Where can we find you and your stuff?
Come just talk to me. Really, I love talking to people. I don't care what their views are or whatever. Like, I just like having conversations with people. I'm not on social media. I'm on Instagram, but I don't ever post or anything. I very rarely get on it. But like, if you want to get a hold of me, you can always email me. It's theaudiojanitor@gmail.com.
That's a great get.
It is, man. Because, like I said, I spend so much of my time just cleaning up shit audio. It's like, I'm an audio janitor, so it's theaudiojanitor@gmail.com. And, I'm always up here, or not always, but I'm up here at ACM a lot. If anybody's around OCCC, they can go to the digital cinema production department. I'm around there pretty regularly. And then, if you're interested in post-production and stuff, like I said, my website will probably be launched in the next month or two, and it'll be theaudiojanitor.com. So look out for that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And I'm Santiago Ramones. I make music. You can find all that on my website, santiagoramones.com, as well as this podcast, which I always end with my three things, which are love never fails, it's going to be okay, I might be wrong. Thanks for listening.